So I've come out for a ride and I've got a puncture. In this video we're going to look at what we need to do to get ourselves rolling again. I'm Richard from Lochaber Environmental Group's Bike Kitchen, and this is how to fix a puncture. The first thing that we need to do is to remove the wheel. Now I've made a video specifically on removing wheels, which I will post at the top of the video here, but I'm just going to quickly remove the wheel from this bike here. So the only tools we need for the job are a spare inner tube, a set of tyre levers and a good quality pump. I really do recommend investing in a quality pump. You'll reap the benefits of it the first time you have to use it out in the wilds. So the first thing I'm going to use are the tyre levers. Okay, so I've got the wheel off of the bike and I've got my tyre levers at the handy. The next step is to get the tyre off of the wheel. So the first thing I'm going to do is just move around and just make sure I disengage the bead of the tyre from the edge of the rim, and that will just make it easier to get the tyre off. It can sometimes feel quite stiff if you don't do this. So once I'm happy that that's all disengaged, I take a tyre lever, pop it in, hold that in place, can then take a second one, and that should just pop over like that. I should be able to then just pull with one hand and then with the other, and the tyre is completely off of the rim now. Now I'm going to take the tube out. I can roll this up and take it home with me. Now the next step is just to make sure that whatever caused the puncture still isn't inside the tyre. So I'm just going to use my fingers to very gently check round the inside of the tyre, just to make sure that there's no pieces of glass, thorns or anything like that still sitting in there that would puncture our new tube when we insert it. Now I've got my fresh inner tube and I've got my pump here. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to put a little bit of air into the inner tube just so it holds its shape. I've got my new tube here and I'm just going to pop that into the tyre here. So I just need to find the valve hole first, which is right here. And I'm just going to pop the valve through the hole and then put the tube in all the way around the tyre. Okay, now starting at the valve here, I'm just going to pop the bead of the tyre into the rim. I'm just going to push the valve up, and that will just make sure that I can seat the tyre bead there, and I'm just going to work that all the way around. Make sure as you're doing this that you get the inner tube inside the tyre. It can be very easy to nick the inner tube at this point. Now once I've got to this stage, I'm going to try really hard to do it with my hands. I don't want to risk using a tyre lever. Now at this point I'm just going to use my thumbs and then my hands, and I'm going to roll the tyre over the rim, and I'm just going to push that over, and you can see that that's now seated nicely onto the rim. Now that I've got the tyre seated nicely onto the rim, I just need to inflate the tyre. So I've semi-inflated the tyre, and I just want to check at this point that the tyre is properly seated onto the bead of the rim. So as I look round the edge of the tyre here, there's a very thin line which should just be everything all the way around the rim surface. And if that pokes down underneath the rim surface at any time, you may want to just give the tyre a little pull and just see if it will pop into the rim position. I'll carry on pumping up from here. Okay, I have my puncture repaired, the tyres pumped back up again. The last thing I need to do is to put the wheel back onto the bike. And now I'm just going to make sure that I pick up and take away everything that I've left behind me. So I'm back home now, I'm out of the rain, I'm by the fire, and it's now time for me to have a look at repairing my inner tube, because we can reuse this obviously. So the first thing I need to do is to find the puncture. Now you may remember having used buckets of water when you were a kid. I tend to just blow up the inner tube and just feel around it. It's quite easy to sort of inflate these to an exaggerated size, and when you do that the hole becomes larger as well, so it's very easy to find. So if I just get it to pump up, and you can actually hear it already. So if I take this off, I should hopefully be able to find it with my hands. Here it is here. I don't know if you can see and hear that, but it's very obvious. Cool. So I'm going to just mark that with my finger just now. So if I just put my thumb over the top of that, I'll know exactly where that is. And I'm going to go to my puncture repair kit. Now in the puncture repair kit you'll find a few things. You'll find a piece of sandpaper, some vulcanizing rubber solution, and an assortment of patch sizes. So the first thing that we need is that piece of sandpaper. Now the purpose of the sandpaper is just to sort of rough up the rubber. It's a very smooth surface, and the adhesive finds it very hard to bind to the inner tube unless you sort of rough it up a little bit like this. So I'm just going to flatten any edges around my puncture. Okay, so I brushed up the edges of the rubber on the inner tube. Now the next step is to take the vulcanizing rubber solution. If it's the first time that you've done this, if it's your first time using the pack, if you just use the lid upside down to pop the film on the top of the tube, and then making sure that you've got eyes on your puncture. I'm just going to put a small amount on, and I'm going to spread it around. Now this patch of vulcanizing rubber will need to be larger than the patch that you intend to use, so I'll just grab one in a little second and just make sure that I'm doing that okay. Now the key to this is to make sure that you're not putting on too much, but not too little as well. So just a thin amount, and I need to leave that until it dries. It should be almost fully dry by the time we put the patch on. In the repair kit that I have here, I have various sizes of patches, some large ones here, some smaller ones here. For the purpose of this inner tube, I'm just going to use one of the small ones. It was a very small puncture. So I've got my tube here, and you can see that the glue is pretty much fully dried here. There's a little patch around the edge here that's still a little bit tacky, but I think that actually will be off the site of the patch, so I'm not too bothered about that. The rest looks great. I'm not going to try to touch it too much, but if you do touch it, it should feel just a little bit tacky. Now the patches can be quite cold in your backpack for so long, so it's a good idea just to give them a rub in your hand, just using your thumb on the foil, just to sort of warm up the patch a little bit. Now I'm going to peel the silver backing away from the patch, so I'm left with the orange side on the clear film. I'm just going to find my puncture hole, which I can see just here, and I'm going to line that up with the middle of the patch and just press the patch down firmly. And then from the centre, push out in every direction to the side, and that'll just make sure that there's no air bubbles underneath the edge. Now the patch is in place, and it's good to get used for the next time that I have a puncture on a ride. So all I'll do is just let any residual air out of this tube, fold it back up, and then place that back in my backpack. So I hope this video has given you the confidence to have a go at fixing a puncture that you might get on your bicycle. If you'd like to find out more about Lochaber Environmental Group or the Bike Kitchen, I've put the links in the description below. Thanks for watching, bye bye.